stations. Just talk, 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 till you lose your patience.
Hey, welcome back. Doug Pagitt Radio on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota, and DougPagittRadio.com. We're holding Carla Barnhill holding her over like an Egyptian hostage or something, holding her over for to finish up her advice on dealing with anxiety. Give it a nod, recognize it. Maybe there's a reason for it. Write it down, get it out of your head, get it on something where you can take a look at it yourself. And Carla, what's your third piece of advice?
Carry it through.
Carry it through.
Yeah, in your mind or on your piece of paper, whatever works for you. Write down what happens if all my worst fears come true. Whatever it is that's scaring you.
Right.
Go to the what if for a minute and say, okay, what if I'm embarrassed when I make this presentation? What if I get up in front of my boss and forget what I was going to say?
Nice.
What if my the person that I need something from says no to me? What if my in-laws, don't want to give us a loan? Then what? Like, so the things that we're anxious about are rarely as awful as we think they are. So once you kind of push it past into its logical conclusion, it's a great way of letting it go, because you start to see that really nothing all that important is on the line here. I mean, sometimes
Sure.
things are. Sometimes it is, a matter of life and death, or it is you're risking a relationship or something like that. But most of the time, the thing that's the logical conclusion of your fear, of your anxiety, is not that big a deal. And so, or it's something you can live with. So if you can kind of push yourself into it and say, okay, what if that thing I'm afraid of happens? Then what am I going to do? What's the worst thing that can happen? And, again, it might be that you get embarrassed. It might be that
you'll be all right.
Yeah, somebody makes you feel a little bit bad about yourself. It might be that you get
shown
hurt.
to be the fraud that
you'll
you really
be all right.
are. Yeah, right.
Yeah, you might be all right. It might be, might be okay. Can you handle it? Sure,
That's
you
right.
probably can.
And that's the difference between a fear and an anxiety in some ways, isn't it? That there's some things we should really be, fearful of.
Yeah, there are things to avoid in life. Yeah,
but some of these anxieties, they sort of dig around at you.
Yeah, and they tend to be kind of overblown. It tends to be things where the thing that we're afraid of is probably not going to be as big a deal as we think it is.
Well, that is
So
Carla
if you can
Barnhill.
face
That's Carla Barnhill. She is our advice giver. Give it a nod, write it down, carry it through, and see if it wouldn't be so bad. And I might also add, don't endeavor in these things at 3:00 in the morning.
Yeah, right. Good one.
like that seems to be the worst time, doesn't it?
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's when it wakes you up. You can't do much about it.
That's right. That's not
Write
the
it down,
time.
and at least you'll get back to sleep.
And get back to sleep and think about it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Every day has enough trouble of its own, someone once said. Hey, Carla, do you want to stick around here with us while we chat a little bit about this presidential primary in Minnesota on Tuesday, or do you need to get off to business?
I need to get off to do other things, but I might listen in to you.
Okay.
See what you have to say.
Well, that's Carla Barnhill. You can find her at carlabarnhill.com.
Thanks, fellas.
Thanks, Carla. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Hey, folks, some of you know, if you're a Republican and you're a Republican voter, that there is a primary apparently being done in a caucus format here in Minnesota on Tuesday. That Minnesota finally gets the limelight in the choice of the presidential nominee. And so it was a big week in presidential politics, and I like to reflect on that, especially from a religious perspective. And, I've been saying over time, the Republicans are in serious trouble with their presumptive nominee. I love that word presumptive. Anytime you can use the word presumptive. In Mitt Romney, because the conservative efforts have been so influenced by Christian conservatives, and Christian conservatives have been so influenced by evangelicals, that the notion of being able to support a nominee of Mormon faith is going to be extraordinarily difficult for evangelicals to get behind. They're going to have a really tough time for a pastor to stand up in her pulpit, or his pulpit in this case, stand up in the pulpit and ask the people to get out there and support the man that God has chosen and have it be a Mormon, because Mormonism for many conservative evangelicals is not seen as a legitimate Christian faith.
It's viewed as a cult.
And when they have to make a choice between Barack Obama, who spent time praying with Billy Graham, as Barack Obama told us at the prayer breakfast this week, which I have a little commentary about that in a moment, or the Mormon, they're going to have a hard time mustering up the energy to tell their people that this is what God would have you to do. So I think that's all. As long as Mitt Romney's the guy, conservative evangelicals are going to be having a difficult time making sense out of that. I think it's going to be really tough for them. Now this whole thing about the prayer breakfast, for the 2 years the show We've been saying this is the third one of these now. I happen to feel that these prayer breakfasts are really a bad idea. And I know that the presidents go to them, and I know that they engage in them. I just happen to think that they're a bad idea. I don't think we should have national government-influenced, government not funded, but government characters while they're in their seated positions, using their seated positions to give them access to be the speakers at religious events. Which is nothing, and it's nothing but a religious event. It's not an event that has a religious flavor to it. It is a full-fledged prayer breakfast.
Oh, come on, Doug. What are you afraid of?
And the breakfast isn't even that great. I just think it really does it just puts the whole thing in a bad light. I think prayer's great. I think people should pray. I just think we shouldn't have national prayer breakfasts or meetings in which you invite politicians to come on behalf of their political perspective at a prayer breakfast. I think it contaminates both sides. I think we shouldn't be engaging it. But I can't seem to talk any sense into the president, because really the president's got a lot on the line if they don't go. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a lose-lose.
Yeah, it's a lose-lose. But doesn't mean we can't say that it's not a particularly good idea. All right, a little bit about the presidential nomination process for the Republicans. You know, Mitt Romney this week had a little bit of trouble in his commentary about being one whose campaign is concerned about the middle class. So if you've paid attention to politics this week, you know that he said, my campaign is not concerned about the poor. If there's a hole in the safety net, then we'll fix it. But we have a system to deal with the poor in this country. My concern is about the middle class. I'm really not concerned about the poor. Right? That's what he said. Right. That's almost a direct quote right there. That was pretty good. I think that's pretty close. Pretty close. I wasn't trying to stretch anything. If it wasn't exact, feel free to correct me. I'll take it as exact. And a lot of progressives have tried to say, see, he doesn't care about the poor. And I think they've kind of jumped on the statement. And then Romney has been saying, no, listen to the whole statement. Here's my take on that. If you listen to the whole statement, that's where you should push on the guy. Take him at his word. Say he believes that there is an adequate support for the poor in this country. That's what he said. It doesn't need to be addressed. It's fine. That's not where the problem lies. That's where someone with a progressive attitude should go after Mitt Romney and say, no, it's not fine. We're not going to get derailed by saying, by your comment about I don't care about the poor. Let's attack the notion that you think everything's fine with the poor. They've been taken care of. The rich are taken care of in our system and the poor are taken care of. I'm worried about the middle class. Rather than saying you don't care about the poor, let's go at the very notion that he suggests that the system is adequate to help poor people in this country. Yeah. It might be adequate to help poor people not starve to death, but it's not adequate to help poor people not stay poor people. Yeah. That's where people should be going at this, not picking on the fact that maybe he mumbled up a statement and said something differently to sort of show that he's not concerned. If you take him at his word, then you find the real point of disagreement. When you get off on these other tangents of he's not very well spoken on that topic, then he can just fix that by being more well spoken on that topic, or better well spoken on that topic, by being more well spoken on the topic. The problem really lies in the fact of his assumption that he wants to grant. Yes. So I think that's where the push should come.
Yeah, it just turns into a bunch of hot air when you just pick on mischosen words. Yes. Get to the meaning of that
and say what he really means is I think the way things are for poor people is fine. We don't have to address that in my administration. Yeah. Does anybody really think that that's the way we? It's unbelievable. Yeah. The second point that I want to push on Mitt Romney and all the presumptive nominees, any of the other ones, is this notion of tax cutting, right? Right. This notion that if you want to create jobs, give a tax cut to the job creators. Okay, listen. No one who owns a company hires an employee because they have money lying around. Right. You don't make employment decisions based on how much money you have. Right. You make employment decisions based on, can our current employees fulfill the needs of our customers? Yes. This notion that you create jobs by giving rich people more money is not how you create jobs. No. What that is this whole notion that some people have that rich people should be catered to. Mm-hmm. Oh, good rich person, would you please have some of your money and give it to me and we'll make sure you're taken care of? Yeah. No. People hire more workers when they say, we can't meet demand. Right. It doesn't matter how much money the owner has.
Yeah, no.
And if one more of these people gets into an argument, presents